In this video, I'm going to show you how to airbrush this Grim Reaper using a template by AirShot Stencils. Let's get into it right now. So what I've got here is a aluminium composite panel. It's been sanded and prepped. I used 800 wet and dry and then a grey scotchy. Now I'm ready to begin airbrushing. I've got the Reaper template here. This is Reaper 10 by AirShot Stencils. And what I want to do is get a bit of a base in there first, because I'm just going to do this one in black and grey. So using a Paynes grey, I'm sort of just lining up by eye here. I'm just going to give this a light dusting on the edge. Now, because I haven't masked up around it, just be careful. It doesn't have to be accurate. And just down the bottom here. So I'm just touching these edges. The reason for that is that I can then remove the template, and using that Paynes grey again, I'm going to come in and give that a bit of a base colour. Now what this is going to do is become our mid-tone. So I'm not even worried about that on the edge there. Give that a couple of good coats like that and then let that dry. Okay, so now that the Paynes grey is complete, what I want to do is line up my template again. I'm just letting it rest on the base of the easel by eye, just having a good look. That looks pretty good to me. Just using a bit of tape to hold it into place. I'm actually using a tape by Custom Creative. This is available from Spray Gunner. It's a yellow rice tape, 24mm. And it's really cool stuff. So it's not overly sticky, but it has enough tack to hold everything into place. You can also tell it's relatively see-through, so you can see easily through your designs as well. And nice and thin, so it'll give you a nice edge if you're spraying against it. Now, next thing I want to do is mask up around the edge to protect my overspray. So just sticking a piece along the ordinary copy paper, just some of that rice tape halfway across, and then lining that up to mask up around my artwork so I don't get any overspray. And if you're interested in any of the products used in this video, I'll pop some links in the description below so that you can go check them out. Okay, so now that that's in place, you can see it's not stuck down. You could use some spray adhesive if you like, but I'm really just going to do a light dusting of this white over the top, and then I'll render freehand from there on. So you can decide to use the template more if you like. You'll notice that the eye sockets and the nose socket are masked off as a positive, so that's why I'm now spraying the white. The white's going to pick up a bit of this grunge background as well as the robe and become a base for that. It'll also become a base for the skull of the Reaper. So to create that first layer of the bone. So a real simple one to do. Don't even have to go as heavy as this, that's probably enough. Okay, so now I can go ahead and remove the template. And then we have our first lot of toning for the Reaper. So now it's a matter of starting to work freehand and build up the artwork. So even though that white's pretty bright as my base, I can still see that this one will sit on top, no problem. So what I'm working on first is to eliminate these harsh edges that are caused by the template. So my white is fairly thin, so I'm going to wind in the Mac valve on this airbrush, and then that way it's going to allow me to drop that pressure and better control this really thin paint. I always prefer to run my paints thinner than usual. Yes, it's harder to control, but it allows me to paint for longer with less tip drying. So you can see I just use that template to get the general shape in there, and now just making it up as I go. Now working on the skull. Even though there's a shadow line there, I'm going to blend up some of this so I can bring the shadow back over. And then it's a bit more suggestive that there's the skull starting from there and coming out. Bit of white and lighten up in the eye socket, because I'm going to come in with the transparent black next and define everything. You can see I'm not too worried that I'm working back over some of these areas. I can bring my white highlights back over at the end. I'm just really building my underpainting at this stage. So bringing some detail into the chin area as well. So these parts weren't in the template, but again, just suggesting them in, and then I'm going to dust over them, hide them back in the shadow. I think I'm going to add some glowing eyes and a bit of a glow in the background here, just to make him pop a little bit more. Continuing on with the robe. On these edges here. Again, add something in those dark sections. So I've gone ahead and added in some texture using this part of the texture template, because I'm going to bring in a glow. So you can obviously grab another texture template if you like. I just thought I'd show you using the same template because it's got this bit of texture on the edge, which is kind of handy. So we'll go ahead and use that. So basically just building up my white, using the texture, moving it around to create multiple layers. That's going to give it a sense of depth. And then we're going to bring our glow onto that section as well as in amongst the eyes. Because I want the glow to really pop, I'm going to use some fluoro green, and I'm going to go ahead now and spray that fluoro green on the background. Now keep in mind that when you're using fluoro colours, it's perfectly fine to use them on your artworks to make colours really stand out. I also sometimes mix them in with different colours just to give them that extra pop. The only thing you need to be aware of is that fluoros will fade if it's for exterior artwork. So if you're doing this, say, on an automotive surface, say a car bonnet, let's say hood for all of our US viewers, then there's a good chance that then it will fade out over time, even if you 2-pack clear it, so the pigments aren't as strong, so just be wary of that. Just blending that out like so. Keep building it up to intensify the colour. And I'm going to hit this edge as well, just blend that out, and then I'll show you what I'll do to make that look a bit better. Add in the fluoro into the eye. It's going to brighten up inside the nose socket as well, because I'll put some fluoro in there. And then a little bit of overspray on the surrounding areas, just to show that there is a glow. Obviously want to continue that light source. Still looks a bit strange at the moment, but it'll begin to make sense soon once I add in the final detailing. I'm going to coat one more time over this. And same thing, I'm going to throw some of that glow on the robe. Not everywhere, just on the edges. So grabbing this template again and using the part of the texture template, we're going to hit the edges so that it looks as though it is blending in off that white panel. Okay, so now I'm going to detail with the transparent black. If you want to check the tone, go into the darkest spot. So I'm pretty happy with that. And you can see I've put a glove on. So I'm working on LU panel here, so I want to keep the panel free from the oil from my hands. That way if I clear it, I'm not going to have any reactions. So you can see I'm really working tight now, up nice and close. Starting to pull out all of the detail with this final tone. Might render these bits of the robe first because they're sitting up in front of the eye sockets, so just want to make sure that I get them in. If you want to know how I mixed up this transparent black, I'll have a link to that as well in the description to another video that I've already done showing you exactly how to do it. The beauty of transparent black is it allows you a little bit more control. It's not as intense obviously, and you can kind of save a little bit of the detail as well. The main benefit is when you're doing black and grey artworks that you can mix up numerous versions of the tone. So you can notice how I'm working in the robe into like basically coming from that panel, so it's not just start and stop. So use the template to get the basic outline and then, you know, make it your own. Go ahead and put that drop shadow in now. You can see the shade, I'm actually moving with the shape of the bone, but you can see how much better it looks that I didn't just do it completely solid. I can actually get some texture in underneath it as well. See how much contrast I'm getting now with that transparent black against the fluoro green. I'll work on the nostril now. Some big cracks in here. Bit of shading in there, but we don't want to totally kill the glow. Just want to give it a bit of a sense of depth. Same with the eye sockets. Start to work on the teeth now. I like to dust over these teeth in the corners. Continuing on with the transparent black. Again, not just going straight black. Put some drop shadows on here as well. For added effect. So you can see, even though I'm colouring in, I'm going back and forth with the airbrush and moving that trigger finger. So turning the paint on and off. You don't just want to go like this, because then you're going to get an uneven tone. So really be conscious of working your double action. Bit more texture on the lower jaw. Some shading on the teeth. Now I'm going to come in with the white again and hit some of these highlights just to really make it pop. With white, remember, less is more. Just be intentional with your highlights. Don't just put them everywhere. Depending on what brand of paint you're using and how thin you've got the paint, white can also be the most frustrating colour to use because there's lots of tip drying usually. So just take your time to get your mix right. So when I use white, I like to use a 70% reducer, 30% paint mix and drop my air pressure down to about 18 to 20 psi. I need to go over these because we've got that glow showing through, giving it the impression that it's transparent, but I actually want these parts of the robe to be in front of the eye sockets, so I need to coat back over them. And if you feel it's too bright, then you can always come back in with your transparent black and reshade them. Highlights on the bone. Again, nice and bright. Doing a mix of up close and sort of dot highlights, a bit of unevenness, and then coming back a bit further and dusting over them. Bring in some highlights above the teeth. Obviously less in that darker area. What I might do is extend this out a little bit. I like how there's still some suggestion of teeth in the background to give that section a little bit more curve. So easily done by airbrushing back over with your white. This is in a dark spot anyway. And we switch back to the transparent black and blend it all in. And I'll even up this side. So just pick certain highlights on the teeth. You don't want to colour them in totally in the white. Now, some extra highlights on the lower jaw, just to really pick that up. Building it up. So wherever you want to go brighter, just gradually build it. Again, depending on your mix. If you've got it mixed thicker, it'll cover a lot quicker. But if you're like me and you prefer it to be thinner and sacrifice the coverage for less tip drying, then it's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to come in again with this texture template, just to add a bit more brightness to the edge. And do a bit of freehand as well. Just dusting over the edge. So let's take a closer look at the completed artwork. You can see I merged the background into that glowing section. You've got the glow in the eyes and the nostril. So to continue your learning, be sure to check out some of the other videos and playlists that I've got listed here. And until next time, go grab your airbrush, do some amazing artwork yourself, and I'll see you again very, very soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.